The president of Venezuela, Nicolás Maduro, rejected threats of the U.S. government regarding the controversy over the Guyana Essequibo. The United States government threatens to impose higher tariffs than those proposed for the European Union and Canada if they seek to harm the North American country. The president of Russia, Vladimir Putin, urged to strengthen the infrastructure and protect the environment in the Arctic region. Hello and welcome to From the South. I'm Ana Marrero from the teleSUR headquarters in Caracas, Venezuela. And now we begin with the news. The president of Venezuela, Nicolás Maduro, rejected threats of the U.S. government regarding the controversy over the Guyana Essequibo. The Venezuelan president condemned the recent hegemonic declaration by the United States regarding the territory of the Essequibo, pointing out the interest of imperialism in the country's resources. For his part, the Venezuelan Foreign Minister Ivan Gil stated that foreign interests will not be allowed to try to rewrite the reality of the disputed territory. All this after the Secretary of State of the United States, Marco Rubio, reiterated the current commitment of the U.S. government with Guyana and threatens a military intervention in the country. These threats have been made since Venezuela announced that it will elect a governor for the eastern part of the country in its regional elections scheduled for next May the 25th.
En el mundo dicen que no, que es un régimen. Por ahí sale el imbécil de Marco Rubio amenazando a Venezuela desde Guyana.
They say it is a regime. The imbecile Marco Rubio threatens Venezuela from Guyana. Imbecile. Venezuela is not threatened by anyone because this is the homeland of the liberators. This is the homeland of Bolivar. Imbecile. He says that this is a regime, that this is a dictatorship. Never in his life has Marco Rubio seen a popular assembly or been to a neighborhood because they belong to the corrupt elite of Miami, very corrupt, who hate Venezuela. He's the godfather of La Sayona. La Sayona doesn't even go to the bathroom unless she asks for permission first to Marco Rubio. Traitor to the homeland, bunch of traitors. Look what they have done to the Venezuelan migrants, who asked for the persecution of migrants, who asked and supported sending them kidnapped to El Salvador. Who? Let the people say it, La Sayona, the criminal traitor. And these people must know that this criminal will be brought to justice sooner or later, and she will pay for what she has done to these people.
The U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio arrived in Georgetown on Thursday to offer security guarantees to Guyana regarding Venezuela's legitimate claims over the territory of Essequibo. The U.S. official threatens that it will be a very bad day for Venezuela if it allegedly attacked Guyana or the assets of the transnational oil company ExxonMobil in the Atlantic. When questioned in a press conference, Rubio assured that if there is a presumed aggression, it will not end well for Caracas. However, he indicates that he will not say that if the United States will respond militarily to help Guyana. Marco Rubio did not hide Washington's interest in the exploitation of cheap oil as well as in breaking mechanisms to avoid Venezuela's energy influence in the region. In this context, Venezuelan Vice President Delcy Rodriguez also expressed. The Zelensky of the Caribbean, Irfan Ali, with tight pants, sought out the minuscule one who occupies the U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio to pretend to threaten Venezuela. They both threaten the peace of stability of our region. The Caribbean Zelensky scorned the dialogue due to our guide mechanism, taking refuge in actions of a warlike nature. They must be very clear that Venezuela will never give up its rights over Guyana Essequibo, nor it will allow itself to be intimidated by the despicable ones of international law. Guyana must immediately stop the illegal and abusive disposition of a seabed and to be limited and immediately sit down at the negotiation table. Enough of threats were worth it. Hearts and harasses of the great liberator Simon Bolivar do not dare. Cuban Foreign Minister Bruno Rodriguez informed on Thursday about a meeting held with the Secretary General of the Association of Caribbean States. The meeting took place in the context of U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio's aggression against Cuba and its humanitarian project to provide health care and cooperation to the countries of the region and the world. The Cuban top diplomat wrote on X, "I met with the Secretary General of the Association of the Caribbean States, Noemi Espinosa, to whom I conveyed Cuba's commitment to continue support in the process of revitalizing the organization and mobilizing resources for regional cooperation projects." And the Bolivarian National Armed Forces of Venezuela's rejected on Thursday the threatening remarks issued by the United States Secretary of State Marco Rubio during his visit to Guyana. In a statement on X, the Venezuelan Minister of Defense Vladimir Padrino Lopez wrote, "It is hard to believe that he could legitimate our claim to the Essequibo territory, considering that the Geneva Agreement is a valid legal instrument signed by the parties involved in the territorial dispute." The text continues by saying that it causes even greater concern that the Cooperative Republic of Guyana intends to restore the imperial interference instead of the mechanism established in the Argyle agreements. We have already warned that U.S. interference in this territorial dispute could scale dangerously in the region. Padrino Lopez ended his post by sentencing that, in the face of these non-facetious statements, the armed forces do not and will not tolerate threats from any foreign official or government. Consequently, we will respond with strength and determination to any provocation or action that threatens the territorial integrity and the sacred interests of the country, because we are the sons and daughters of Bolivar, and we will defend our freedom, sovereignty, and independence of our lives. Let's take a very short break, but remember, you can join us on our TikTok account as teleSUR English, where you'll be able to see news in different formats, news updates, and more. Stay tuned for more news. Welcome back to From the South. The Venezuelan National Assembly discussed during a session the humanitarian measure for the repatriation of Venezuelan migrants from the United States. Members discussed humanitarian measures so that migrants still in the United States can return home safe and sound. In this regard, the legislators, together with the victims' families, condemned the criminal actions of the governments of Washington and El Salvador regarding the kidnapping of more than 200 Venezuelan migrants. In this context, the president of the parliament, Jorge Rodriguez, emphasized that the kidnapping of the 288 migrants detained in El Salvador is a problem for the whole country.
Porque esos 238 venezolanas y venezolanos.
Because those 238 Venezuelan men and women kidnapped in El Salvador are our brothers and sisters, our sons and daughters, our parents, our uncles and aunts. This is our family. We cannot look away. No Venezuelan can look away. We cannot say that this is not our problem. This is our problem. The rescue of our kidnapped brothers is a life or death problem.
Rodriguez also accused Salvadoran President Nayib Bukele of setting up concentration camps to hold Venezuelans and said he was staging one of the most dreadful, despicable, and shameful events in the history of America.
The butcher of Nayib Bukele is staging one of the most dreadful, despicable, and shameful events in the history of America. To lend his territory to set up concentration camps so that people who have only committed the crime of being Venezuelans are being held in a maximum security prison. That is not a prison, it is a concentration camp, and our brothers and sisters have no reason to be there. They are kidnapped by Marco Rubio. They are kidnapped by David Bukele.
The government of Colombia and the United States signed an agreement on the exchange of migratory information to strengthen bilateral cooperation in achieving a migratory policy that respects human rights. The deal was signed by the Colombian Foreign Minister Laura Sarabia and the United States Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem, and is aimed at the repatriation of Colombian nationals from the United States to the South American country. The U.S. delegation emphasized that Washington is willing to work with Colombia on border security with the exchange of biometric data. The United States government threatens to impose higher tariffs than those proposed for the European Union and Canada if they seek to harm the North American country. U.S. President Donald Trump denounced that the European Union and Canada are working together to harm the United States. If so, the U.S. President declared that it will take measures increasing tariff on a large scale, considering that the entry into force of the 25% tariffs on all automobiles imported to Washington will come into effect on April the 2nd. On Thursday, the president of Mexico, Claudia Sheinbaum, mentioned that her administration will give a comprehensive response to the U.S. tariff and assured she will always protect Mexico, the jobs generated in the country, and its companies.
The first thing the people of Mexico need to know is that we are always going to protect Mexico. That is our responsibility. We have to defend the jobs that are generated in Mexico, the jobs that exist, and the Mexican companies as well. This is part of our fundamental work in the development of the country and in the relationship with the government of the United States, and always with the principle of sovereignty of our country, of defending the sovereignty of our country. Now, of course, within the trade agreement, Mexico-United States-Canada, there should be no barriers. That is the essence of the trade agreement.
In Argentina, President Javier Milei announced that the government will receive at least $20 billion from the International Monetary Fund. Economy Minister Luis Caputo said that the loan will be provided through the new agreement with the IMF to be signed in the next few weeks. Caputo also assured that with the agreement, it is expected that the Argentine Central Bank gross reserve will increase to approximately $50 billion. Media reports indicate that the minister did not specify how much of these funds will be designated to cancel the first installments of the program closed in 2022, and how much will be designated to cancel non-transferable central banks bills held by the Treasury. And moving on, in Bolivia, more than 368,000 families have been affected and 99 municipalities are in a state of disaster due to the emergency that the country is going through with the heavy rains. According to officials report, 818 affected families have lost their homes due to the rains, floods, landslides, and overflowing rivers. The forecast of the Meteorological and Hydrological Service activated a red alert for almost the entire country until April the 5th, 2025, due to the risk of floods and overflowing rivers. The declaration of a national state of emergency by the government makes it possible to speed up response to disasters, to manage external financial resources, to draw up the post-floods plan, and to mobilize more technical, logistical, and economic resources in the affected areas. Works continues to contain wildfires ranging in South Korea that have left at least 28 deaths, 32 injured, and thousands evacuated in a week. The fires have been cataloged as the worst in the country's history, and as a measure, the government declares a state of national disaster. Flames have devastated more than 36,000 hectares, and several helicopters are still dropping water on the areas due to the strong winds and dry weather that spreads the fire. In addition, authorities have evacuated 37,185 people, some 190 kilometers southeast of Seoul, while another 6,700 are in temporary shelters. In this context, scientists alert that global warming is making this weather phenomenon more extreme every year. Let's take a last break, but before we invite you to visit our Facebook page, teleSUR English. There you'll be able to watch our top stories, special live coverage, and much more. Follow our page and activate the notification button to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. We'll find out your break, don't go away. Welcome back. In France, the leader of 30 of Ukraine's allied countries met in Paris for a summit aimed at boosting the regime's security. French President Emmanuel Macron said that the time has not yet come to lift the Russian sanctions. At the same time, the French president points out that the European Union has no legal basis for its frozen Russian assets. For his part, the British Prime Minister urged to strengthen sanctions against Russia, adding that the decision focused on the determination to support Kiev, including plans for military operations on land, earth, and sea. The President of Russia, Vladimir Putin, urged to strengthen the infrastructure and protect the environment in the Arctic region. At the meeting on the development of the Arctic region, the Russian leader called to ensure the comfortable living conditions and to protect the ecosystems of the cold region. Putin also points out the strategic importance of the region, stressing that economic and trade opportunities should be expanded. The Russian leader also emphasized that it is necessary to enhance the settlements in the far north and improve the quality of life of residents in order to make the area comfortable and attractive to live in.
Permítame repetirlo. Aquí en el Ártico, en esta región estratégica e importante.
Let me repeat, here in the Arctic, in this strategic and important region for us, we face systemic and large-scale tasks. It is necessary to strengthen the transport and logistics infrastructure, expand opportunities for the economy and business with mandatory protection of the sensitive Arctic ecosystems. It is necessary to constantly improve the urban environment, develop settlements in the far north and, in general, improve people's quality of life so that they have interesting and well-paid work, modern education and healthcare systems, so that living in the Arctic is truly comfortable and attractive.
Moreover, President Putin reaffirmed his readiness to cooperate in the joint promotion of the protection and development of the Arctic region.
We have advocated and continue to advocate equal cooperation in the region, including scientific research, biodiversity protection, climate issues, emergency response, and, of course, economic and industrial development in the Arctic. And we are willing to collaborate not only with the Arctic states, but also with all those who, like us, share responsibility for a stable and sustainable future for the planet and are capable of making balanced decisions for the coming decades.
Also in Russia, the second meeting of the Commission on Cooperation between the State Duma and the National Assembly of People's Power of Cuba took place in Moscow. The chairman of the State of Duma, Vyacheslav Volodin, and the president of the Cuban National Assembly, Esteban Lazo Hernandez, praised the gathering where the dialogue between the two countries was highlighted. In this regard, Volodin underscored that bilateral relations have always been based on principles of mutually beneficial cooperation, absence of double standards, and non-interference in the affairs of sovereign states. The meeting took place in the framework of Lazo Hernandez's official visit to the Russian Federation, which started on Thursday by laying a parade at the tomb of the unknown soldier in the Russian capital. And moving on, this Thursday, more than 3,000 ships of the Iranian Navy held a parade in support of the Palestinian people and the resistance in the Gaza Strip. Naval parades were held in the waters of the Caspian Sea, the Persian Gulf, and the Sea of Oman in support of the Palestinian people and the Gaza Strip in the eve of the World Al-Quds Day. In this exercise, in addition to the Palestinian flag, the flag of the Israeli regime was also set on fire in the heart of the Persian Gulf. According to Iranian authorities, the parade was carried out jointly with Lebanon, Iraq, and Yemen and included 3,000 boats. We have come to the end of this news brief, but you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also join us on our socials, we're on Facebook and X, and on Instagram as well. For TeleSUR English and from the South, I'm Ana Marrero. Thank you for watching.
Cambia a un ritmo vertiginoso.